TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, September 21st, 2016. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to CATEX TV. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, the Federal Reserve is expected to make an announcement regarding interest rates. Most economists believe that the Fed will keep interest rates unchanged. This is amidst very weak inflation and relatively weak recent economic data, where there is suspicion that the central bank could signal an increased likelihood of a rate hike by the end of this year. The Bank of Japan earlier today added a long-term interest rate target to its own massive asset buying program in an overhaul of its policy aimed at accelerating achievement of its 2% inflation rate target. That news alone has had a positive effect on global stock markets, which have jumped. Tropical storm Karl, which had almost been a hurricane, weakened to a tropical depression earlier today. It could still become a hurricane, according to the National Hurricane Center, but that, if it happens, won't be likely until the weekend. The Hurricane Center acknowledged that its own computer models have blown it with Karl. Models had been forecasting the storm to move into a more favorable environment, but that has not materialized. Of course, to the Hurricane Center, a more favorable environment means an increased likelihood of actually becoming a stronger storm. Bermuda is still on a watch regarding Karl because the storm may circle back and intensify, and at minimum hit the island with a strong storm force. Lisa might be a different story. It's about 550 miles west-northwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. It's got wind speeds now of about 50 miles per hour, and it's moving over warm water. It's expected to get stronger today. The Hurricane Center says they expect it to begin a weakening trend starting on Thursday with Lisa, but then, of course, they just had said that their models had blown it with Karl. The Atlantic hurricane season runs through November 30th. The Hartford insurance company has apparently called in investment bankers to begin a process for selling its runoff variable annuity business. This is according to the Insurance Insider. Sources have said that J.P. Morgan has been retained by the insurer to run the process, which has a $4.7 billion level of statutory surplus. Variable annuity businesses in runoff, Hartford has stopped selling them. Of course, with interest rates being what they are, variable annuities are not a good place for insurers to be involved in. Hartford has decided to concentrate on its own property and casualty business. Speculation exists that if in fact the sale does come to pass, a likely buyer would be Berkshire Hathaway. Volkswagen, of course, has been hit by huge fines by multiple jurisdictions around the world over the emission scandal. Well, we've forgotten that the stockholders of Volkswagen are a very angry bunch. They've seen the value of their stock plummet as a result of this disturbing news. And now, in the one-year anniversary of the first public notification of the scandal, some $9.1 billion in damages have been filed in German courts from investors claiming that the value of their stock has decreased as a result of intentional or recklessly negligent acts perpetrated by the company. There's a story in the marine insurance press today talking about onboard container ship fires in 2016. There were two of them, the NNCI Araquo in September and the Maersk Karachi in May, both of which have raised concerns that these ships are inadequately equipped for such exposures. At sea, this is according to the organization that's in the International Union of Marine Insurance, stated that at sea, below-deck fires cannot be fought with water, so carbon dioxide is used instead to displace the oxygen and extinguish the fire. However, if the fire is burning within a container, the container itself will protect the fire from the CO2. So this method of firefighting is rarely successful. There had been an incident earlier this year as well involving the MSC Flaminia, where the vessel burned for almost 6 weeks. 70% of the cargo destroyed, and the ship was declared a constructive total loss. 3 seamen aboard the vessel lost their lives. So this is in fact a big problem because many of these container ships have hundreds of containers stacked on them. One pilot died and another was injured in California after they ejected from a U.S. Air Force U-2 spy plane that had been on a training mission in Northern California. Yes, a U-2 spy plane, the same vintage that was shot down in 1960 by the Soviets when Francis Gary Powers was then taken prisoner for 2 years. The plane is still in operation. The developers of the luxury condo building in San Francisco, the Millennium Tower, spoke to reporters today for the first time yesterday, since it had revealed that the building is sinking and tilting at an unexpected rate. The developer said that the groundwater level underneath the building had dropped by a staggering 20 feet as a result of, quote, the largest hole ever dug in Northern California by the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, which is building a transit site next door to the building. They further claim that the Trans-Bay Transit Authority was well aware of the possibility of dewatering and what that would cause to the foundation under the 58-story building, which has now tilted some 16 inches. Of course, the big news today has nothing at all to do with insurance and reinsurance. It has to do with the divorce of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. But that's not news for us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.